Let me start by saying this. Not every story is about being right or wrong. Some stories are about growth, some are about consequences, and some are about learning how to choose peace when chaos keeps knocking at your door. This is one of those stories. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Kingston, Jamaica. What I'm about to share isn't to justify my mistakes, but to show how accountability, boundaries, and honesty can turn a messy situation into a peaceful ending. So sit with me for a few minutes and let me take you back years ago. Before I was married, I was in a committed relationship with a woman named Marcia. She later became my wife. During that period, I met Keisha. Keisha was warm, loving, and understanding, or at least she seemed that way at the time. What started casually became complicated very quickly. She knew I had someone else in my life. And even though that should have been the end of it, emotions blurred judgment. Things came to a head when Marcia came to visit. The truth came out, and emotions exploded. Keisha reacted badly, and in that moment, I realized how much damage my poor decisions had caused. I ended things immediately. Later on, Keisha apologized. She begged to stay in my life in any form. And I'll be honest, she was kind, affectionate, and genuine in many ways. If my life had been different, maybe the story would have gone another direction. But it wasn't. And I chose to walk away. Or at least, I thought I did. Months passed. Life moved on. Then one day, Keisha reached out. She said she wanted to see me one last time to say goodbye before leaving the island and starting fresh. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met in Montego Bay. What was supposed to be closure turned into weakness. Emotions resurfaced, and we made a mistake one moment that would later echo for years. After that day, she vanished. No calls, no messages, nothing. I assumed that chapter of my life was finally closed. I was wrong. About a year later, I heard through mutual friends that Keisha had given birth. I reached out not with suspicion, not with expectations, but simply to congratulate her and wish her well. We spoke casually, like to people who once knew each other. Because she had been kind to me in the past, I helped her occasionally when she needed support. One day, jokingly, I asked who the father of the child was. She laughed and said, "You." I laughed too. I didn't take it seriously. But over time, I noticed something wasn't right. She still had feelings for me. And by then, I was married to Marcia. I didn't want to reopen wounds or lead anyone on, so I slowly pulled away. That's when the story took a turn. A friend told me Keisha had been saying I was the child's father and that I was refusing to take responsibility. I was shocked. I invited her to talk, and this time, there was no laughter. She looked me in the eyes and said the child was mine. Around this time, my wife and I didn't have children yet, not because we couldn't, but because Marcia had been medically advised not to get pregnant for a while due to serious health risks. I had a choice: hide the situation or face it. I chose honesty. I told my wife everything, every detail, every mistake. She was hurt. Any woman would be. But what she showed me that day was strength I'll never forget. She told me that if there was even a chance the child was mine, I had a responsibility not just as a man, but as a human being. Even with doubts about paternity, I stepped up. I supported the child financially. Sometimes, when things were tough, my wife herself would send money to help. That humbled me deeply. But somewhere along the line, boundaries began to blur again. The child became an excuse, an opening, a bridge back into emotional territory that should have stayed closed. I noticed actions that caused tension in my marriage. I noticed manipulation. I noticed control. That's when I realized something important. Good intentions without boundaries still destroy lives. So I made a decision. I told Keisha calmly and respectfully that for the sake of my marriage and everyone's peace, things had to change. There would be no private meetings, no secrecy, no emotional pressure. All support would go through a trusted third party. Any contact with the child would be. Transparent and the truth through a proper paternity test would be established. There was resistance. There was anger. But I stood firm. For the first time, I chose peace without guilt. Eventually, clarity came. With the truth established, the chaos lost its power. The child's future was secured properly. Responsibilities were clear. Manipulation had no room to breathe. Most importantly, my marriage survived. My wife and I grew stronger not because we avoided hardship, but because we faced it together, honestly and courageously. Today, we live peacefully in Kingston. The past no longer controls us. Everyone involved moved forward with dignity. And that's the lesson I leave you with: mistakes don't define you. Avoiding responsibility does. But when you choose honesty, boundaries, and accountability, even the messiest story can end in peace. Thank you for listening.